and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and joining me tonight is Zach Siegel-Eisman, the founder and CEO at Amplify Legacy. Zach is a digital marketing leader with roots in social media and digital activations dating back to high school. While starting out, he elevated the social media presence of numerous brands and entertainments, including working with the Syracuse University women's basketball and tennis teams and developing his music discovery site focused on emerging artists. In 2017, his career took off when he joined Artist Network Management, and eventually he landed a role as an account manager at the social media agency CrowdSurf, where he later rose to vice president of marketing. Most recently, he served as vice president of digital and viral marketing at Big Loud Rock. So, Zach, welcome to the podcast. How's it going?
Yeah, Rachel, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Very happy to be here and be on the podcast and long time fan and great to be on the show.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, with that, are you ready to dive into the first question?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give him on a personal note, and what one piece of advice would you give him from a business perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rachel. So, from a personal note, I'd probably tell my younger self to be patient as well as also being open-minded towards opportunities, saying yes to opportunities that align with that sound cool and interesting and rewarding and fulfilling and aiming to make the world a better place while also learning to say no and to stand up for yourself and be respectful, but also just to, think before speaking, be a little more like targeting your approach and show a willingness to learn. And I would say from a professional level, I guess that sort of relates to it, just a professional displaying professionalism, willingness to learn, and being eager and asking questions. And that the path that you're in right now is not the end point, and this is merely just another step in the process. So overall, just displaying more mindfulness and positivity is probably the message I'd give to myself personally and professionally.
Yeah, and everyone can feel it when you're being positive. It just helps everybody around you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all tides rise together. So we're all in this together. We know what we know, and hopefully we learn to know what we don't know, and it's kind of just bridging the gap in between both areas.
Totally. Yeah, great advice. Before we jump into the next question, can you share a little bit about what led you to creating Amplify Legacy and what are some of the cool projects that you worked on with that?
Yeah, so it was during a moment of, my role ending, leaving CrowdSurf, where I worked there as digital marketing agency for about 3.5 years, was in the title of VP of Marketing. And when that ended, I was figuring out what I wanted to do next, where I wanted to go. And what had helped me in the past and along in my career was doing informal sort of informational interviews. So say meetings with my contacts, meetings with colleagues. And so upon meeting with 25, 50 different individuals, either in person, phone, video, and learning more about what they do, what I like to do, and what they're working on. I started picking up my own projects in digital marketing, social media management, really artists, partnerships. And one thing led to another. And once I had a few clients, I thought, well, I should really get an LLC. A lot of my sort of mentors and colleagues I was speaking with mentioned getting an LLC, launching a business, and in the meantime, while you're looking for something full time, you could have this business in your back pocket. You can grow and build. And so, I've been working with a country artist for a little over a year, and we just passed 20,000 followers on his TikTok. And when I started, there was a few hundred. So less than a year later, or about a year later, we're achieving quite a bit of goals there. I got to work with some of my projects at CrowdSurf again. When they heard I left, they immediately contacted me and wanted to figure out how they can keep working with me and find a solution that can work with what they wanted to do. And then I also started working at Songfluencer as well, where I joined as a biz dev consultant under Amplify Legacy. And so that was very rewarding to understand the creator marketing space a little bit more, aka influencer marketing, as it relates to music and brands. And I already knew the space pretty well, having worked at CrowdSurf, hiring influencers, worked in artist management for 2.5 years prior to that, from 2017 to 2019. And so all the skills I gained from working in music for the last 7+ years really helped me in continuing my relationships with colleagues, offering services as it related to influencer marketing, digital marketing, partnerships, social media management. And so I built sort of an ecosystem with my own business where upon working with clients, I was able to offer a lot of different services that I could help them with as it related to those subjects I just mentioned. So working with Songfluencer allowed me to work with some really great acts and continue to develop my relationships. And so forever grateful for that team for giving me the opportunity, because if not for that and having Amplify Legacy and building that business out and becoming my own business owner and working in artist management and working at CrowdSurf, social media marketing agency, and having my own blog before that for like 7+ years, all of those experiences I've found have really contributed to success in my current role and have helped me to kind of transition and work in the record label space.
Yeah, it's funny, like when you do take a step back, you really notice that everything that you've done is so interconnected.
Yeah, it's like the MySpace pages, fan pages that I built in high school for my favorite athletes and favorite musicians. I rattle them off in meetings and talking about how long I've been working how long I've been working in socials. But I almost want to do like air quotes, like working. It's always been fun to just tap into social media audiences and connect with others through there, and even develop friendships in a lot of ways. So yeah, absolutely interesting what influences personally and professionally aid in our kind of career development.
Totally. All right, next question. Every industry has its dirty little secrets, and you and I both know that is no different in the music industry. Sometimes people think that's a bad thing, but that is not always the case. Sometimes they can be good. So, what's one secret you would like to share with our listeners about the industry?
So I was trying to think of an answer different from what other podcast guests have said, and I had trouble thinking of something other than like we're all figuring it out. There's a lot of us that know a lot of things, and there's a lot of us that know very little, and it's really trying your best to bridge the gap with managing, I guess, egos, helping to educate others, and like bridge the gap between what we know and what we don't know, and understanding the difference between the two. And I guess that's the definition of wisdom. And so it's just that's one, I guess, dirty little secret, and partially like professionally is just like following up uh and what my old boss used to say in artist management. And it's kind of about knowing the dirty little secret, I guess, is knowing when to put your foot on the gas versus when to put your foot on the brakes, and that's finesse. And so I don't know if that answers the dirty little secret. I kind of went on a tangent there, but ultimately it's how little we know, and how frequently the industry is changing. We all have these tried and true systems and processes, but in my role, 3 months from now, that's going to change, and 6 months from now, that's going to change, and maybe TikTok goes away in January, and then we're scrambling and figuring out what's next. And so it's always just about, I think, keeping your head on a swivel. That's probably the dirty little secret, is keeping your head on a swivel to try to understand what's going on out there. And if you're not educating yourself on what's going out there, you could fall behind. So that's as easy as it is to figuring it out, is talking to people, consuming information
Yeah.
and figuring out, how does this apply to the work I'm doing, or how does this apply to the work I want to do, or where I want to go with the work I'm doing.
Totally. It's like being chronically online and chronically present.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very easy to tune out the noise and just focus on yourself, but also it is a matter of being plugged in. And I think that balance is what my mindfulness is just knowing when to go hard at work and do your best work, and when to stop and take breaks and go home and get rest and enjoy your night, enjoy your weekends. So again, I think it went on a tangent, but hopefully that answers your
This is a
question.
great job. All very important things. Final question. Throughout your career, I'm sure you've been asked plenty of questions, whether it was for an industry conference, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all of those interviews and all of those questions, there has to be one that you've never been asked but would have liked to. So, what is that question and what would be your answer?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Rachel, and probably the hardest question you've asked. What have you learned from, I guess, what have you learned from the artists you've worked with? What have you learned from those around you that you found helpful to apply in your current role? And my answer would likely be, I mean, just like it's a vast answer. It depends on the day, I suppose. So, but being around these artists, you're learning quite a bit. Uh, in the crate. Well, yeah, I actually want to change my answer. I guess the question would be like, how do you communicate with artists and get what you want out of them and working with them? That's a question I've never been asked. And I think I would answer that by, getting on their level, understanding what their needs are, what their wants are, what they like to do outside of music, what they're passionate about, and merging that with your own goals and getting them excited about what you're trying to achieve. And it's similar to how like motivating people internally in your team in your company, but working with artists is not always the easiest. There's egos, there's shift changes, idea changes. They can want one thing one day and it changes the next. And so forever grateful I've worked in artist management to help me, because if I didn't work to help me get to the space I'm now, because if I didn't work in artist management, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Out of all the experiences I've had in the past, which have been vast and varied, it was working with artists and understanding kind of how to get them on the page that you're looking to get on, while also kind of getting on their level of understanding and diving deeper behind the meaning of who they are. So apologies, I went in one direction and sort of shifted in one other direction. But I think that's the question and the answer, that second part there.
I loved it. No, it's a great answer. Well, it's about time we close out tonight's episode, but Zach, thanks again for joining me. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, Rachel. Thank you so much for having me on, and I can't wait to listen to more episodes of the your podcast.
To everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Stay tuned for next week of 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. See you next time.